Hey guys, welcome back to another video. And yes, you read the title correctly. Republicans are now favored to win in a trifecta, sweeping the Democrats with a 42% chance winning the House, the Senate, and the presidency all together. And also, Donald Trump has now officially flipped the state of Wisconsin on the Real Clear Politics no toss-up electoral map, getting 312 electoral votes, greater than his 2016 margin to Kamala Harris's 226. He has now opened up a roughly 0.1% lead on average, a narrow victory in the state of Wisconsin. And this state, keep in mind, had one of the worst polling years, if not the worst, out of any other states out of all the 50 in the 2020 election in terms of severely overestimating Joe Biden. So realistically, Donald Trump may actually be winning it by even more than just 0.1%. And we're going to be filling out the electoral map based off the RCP averages for every single battleground state. But before we get started, make sure you guys are subscribed, click the bell so you don't miss out my content, press the like button, share this video. Don't forget, if you are interested, we have memberships, so you can find links to that in the description section. Currently, 93 electoral votes up for grabs for every single swing and toss-up race. The states highlighted in yellow are the real battleground states, is what I like to call them. Obviously, you have the state of Texas, which is considered a battleground state, but it doesn't really get too close. Therefore, Donald Trump is likely to win that state. And same thing goes for Kamala Harris. You know, New Hampshire is considered a battleground state, but still, she is likely favored to win that state as well. So before we get on the map, let's take a look at a few things. Starting off with the overall national popular vote. As of right now in the RCP average, Kamala Harris's popular vote nationally is shrinking. Her advantage is only at 1.4%, which you compare this to just a few weeks ago, it used to be higher than just that. And if you take a look at Emerson, a highly trustworthy pollster, highly rated on 538, has Kamala only up by 1 with the popular vote. And keep in mind, let's just say she gets it by 2, that still might not be enough for her to win the election, because when Hillary Clinton had won the popular vote by around 2 points in the 2016 election, she still lost overwhelmingly by over 300 electoral votes to Donald Trump. So in order for Kamala to win this election, she's going to have to get more than just 2 points of the popular vote nationally. And if you take a look at the direction of the country on the RCP averages, roughly 64% of people think that it's headed in the wrong direction. Meanwhile, only 27% of people think it's headed in the right direction. And these numbers actually skewed in favor of the Democrats overestimating their support. If you take a look at, for example, any other sites, it's actually even worse. The numbers are worse for Kamala Harris and the Democrats. So now that we know that on Polymarket, Republicans are favored to get a trifecta, they have a 50% chance of winning the House, roughly an 80% chance of winning the Senate, and a little over 60% of winning the presidency. It has been increasingly clear that as we get closer to November 5th, Donald Trump's chances have significantly skyrocketed, and he is now favored to win this election. Even Kamala Harris herself had admitted that she is the underdog in this race. So Donald Trump has now flipped Wisconsin by a tilt margin of under percentage point, extremely close. He is going to win the state according to the RCP average. Now we go to the battleground state of Nevada, in which Donald Trump has also flipped this state from, I believe, last week, in which originally Kamala was actually winning in this state. Now, it is true, polls in Nevada typically overestimate Republican support, so let's not deny that. But he is up by half of 1%, 47.7 to Kamala Harris's 47.2% in the state of Nevada. So just like Wisconsin, it's a under 1% victory. That's the margin. A tilt one. It's extremely narrow. And now we move toward the state of Arizona, a Sunbelt state, a border state. As we all know, immigration is a losing issue for Kamala Harris. She can't address that whatsoever. Donald Trump has opened up a 1.5 point lead in the state of Arizona, according to the RCP averages. Even a CBS poll, which is a left-leaning pollster, has Donald Trump up by 3, with a large sample size of over 1,000 likely voters, nearly 1,000 and 1.5K actually. And that overestimates Democratic support. So realistically, he actually might be winning by more than that, which is disastrous news for Kamala Harris. So that's a lean margin of victory for the former president in the state of Arizona. And as for Texas, polls are showing it's going to be surprisingly close, similar to where it was in 2020, because as we all know, Donald Trump won the state by a 5.5 percentage points just in the last election 4 years ago, and the RCP averages has him getting around the same margin that he ended up getting in the 2020 election, which severely underestimated Donald Trump's support. So, in my opinion, the real numbers is probably closer to 7 to possibly even 8 points, a likely margin. Regardless, Trump is still likely going to comfortably win the state of Texas. Just like Arizona, it's another border state. Not a good issue for Kamala Harris. It's important to a lot of these voters, a number one priority. And now we move on to the state of Florida, in which Donald Trump's lead is expanding. It used to be a little under 5 points. Now it's all the way up to 6%. Still not really shocking for him. I think he should get close to maybe even 9 to 10 points if he's lucky enough. But as of right now, it's a likely margin for him. He is able to crack 50 points on the averages to Kamala Harris's 44%. So his lead in Florida is not shrinking, but it was pretty scary for him. The numbers were surprisingly close, which is not good on his part. But now he is gaining somewhat ground in the state. Also, they just had a hurricane, which could sway the vote. I'm not sure how that's going to really impact the voting. Maybe it could in favor of Kamala or Trump. But as of right now, Florida will remain likely for the former president. This state's pretty much a lost cause for any Democratic candidate. It doesn't really matter. And now we move on to the deep southern state of Georgia, an important must flip for Donald Trump. Joe Biden had won the state for the first time for any Democrat since Bill Clinton. Donald Trump is now leading by a little over 1 percentage point on the RCP averages in the state of Georgia, a tilt narrow margin of victory. Now, the only reason why Biden won it was because of Atlanta, the suburbs, obviously, the metropolitan area, and basically the urban areas next to Fulton County, severely large African American population. Biden had skyrocket turnout. He had enthusiasm, obviously. He had COVID on his side against Donald Trump. You had a lot of major celebrity endorsements go in favor of Joe Biden. Obviously, you had BLM, which went against Donald Trump. All these major factors that we had in 2020 in favor of Biden are no longer a factor in this election of 2024. Therefore, Kamala does not have the enthusiasm as Biden once did in 2020. She's not going to get the turnout in Atlanta that she needs to win this state. Therefore, Donald Trump will still win, but it's going to be a very close and tight race. And as for North Carolina, similar to Florida, also had a hurricane, so that maybe can impact the voting there. Also, Mark Robinson on the governorship is hurting Donald Trump. He's dragging down this race, and a new poll actually had Josh Stein, his opponent, up by around 20 points. And yes, that poll does overestimate Democratic support, but even the fact that it's 20 is not good news for Mark Robinson. But his lead, Trump's lead in North Carolina, is similar to Georgia of 1 percentage point, a tilt margin. These states are expected to be very, very close. And then as for the state of Virginia, you take a look at the RCP averages. Kamala Harris is up by a likely margin of 6.5 percentage points. She's able to crack 50% to Donald Trump's 44%. The complete opposite of Florida, because as we all know, Florida in the RCP average has Trump up by 6. Now Virginia is Kamala up by 6. So that's likely for her. And now as regards to what's going on in this state on the grounds here, the governor, Glenn Youngkin, who's extremely popular, by the way, whom endorsed Donald Trump, is having a significant ground game trying to help Donald Trump potentially make this race really close, because obviously he's not going to win it no matter what. Obviously, he's actually trying to mandate paper ballot voting only on election day. The state will be called faster, and that's really beneficial to Donald Trump. And also in Wisconsin, I believe there are much fewer mail-in drop boxes. I believe that's what it's called. 78 this time around, and in 2020, I believe it was over 500, which is a significant difference. You can argue in favor of Trump or the other way. And now we move on to some of these Rust Belt states, starting off with Minnesota. Obviously, you have the governor here, Tim Walz, who is literally Kamala Harris's VP. You have that home state advantage electorally, so that's going to be beneficial to the vice president. Therefore, I do have Minnesota going to Kamala Harris by around 5 percentage points, which is actually less than the polling averages on RCP. Maybe I am overestimating Kamala's support, but she is getting almost 5 points, not quite there yet. She's at exactly 49%. Donald Trump's polling at 44.3% in the state of Minnesota. This is actually not going to be likely. I'm going to characterize this as lean, a little closer then I would say Virginia, obviously. And now we move on to Michigan because we did already go over Wisconsin. That was basically the main point of this video, in which Trump has officially flipped Wisconsin, giving him 312 electoral votes. But as for Michigan, Donald Trump is leading by almost 1 percentage point, a tilt margin similar to his lead in Georgia and North Carolina. Probably this is because of the large uncommitted vote share in the Democratic primaries. Roughly 100,000 people voted uncommitted. I think Trump will make significant gains in some of these stronghold Democratic counties like Dearborn, Michigan, and a Democratic mayor in the state actually endorsed Donald Trump. Not an independent, but a Democrat mayor. So he is going to win Michigan by a tilt margin. This is going to be another flip for the former president compared to the 2020 election. And then as for Pennsylvania, Donald Trump has also been leading this state. This is not really a flip, but he has been leading. And Pennsylvania, most polls show it's going to vote to the right of Wisconsin, which is really odd because usually it's the opposite, in historically speaking. But as of right now, Pennsylvania is going to go to Donald Trump by half of 1% of 0.5 percentage points. He's getting almost 48% of the vote to Kamala Harris's 47.4%. So this will also be a narrow, tight victory. A lot of these states suggest this is going to be a very close election. Also, the fact that he got shot in this state could really point to large turnout for Donald Trump. And Centre County, which is right next door to Butler, same with Pittsburgh and Erie County, as well as some of these stronghold Democratic counties, possibly Philadelphia as well. Maybe Kamala won't have the turnout she needs. Also, I expect Trump to flip Northampton County. It only went to Biden by 0.7%. And he's probably going to flip Erie County as well. And the last and final state before we end off this video is going to be New Hampshire, which is actually showing good signs for Kamala Harris. On average, she's almost up by nearly 8 percentage points. Polls are showing it's not going to be close at all. This state's actually shifting towards the left in the future. New Hampshire's just going to get a whole lot bluer, and she's up by a likely margin. It's not even going to be close or competitive at all. She opens up a nearly 8-point lead, and it is getting bluer, by the way. She's actually increasing her support. I think it was down to just a little under 7, and now it's almost up to 8. This state has a lot of college-educated voters, as we all know. Tim Walz, her VP, had to do a lot with education as his time as governor, so I think that can correlate to a lot of the New Hampshire voters out there. Therefore, she's going to win New Hampshire pretty comfortably. But this is the Real Clear Politics electoral map. Trump gets 312 electoral votes. The main point in this video is he does flip Wisconsin. The 3 Rust Belt states altogether vote in the same direction, and they don't really typically split apart. So, therefore, Kamala gets 226 electoral votes. This is, once again, not my prediction. I just want to clarify. This is what RCP says. And on Polymarket, Republicans are favored to win the trifecta, all the 3 major races, the presidency, the Senate, and the House of Representatives. So there you guys go. One last final reminder to subscribe, click the bell so you don't miss out my content, press the like button, share this video if you're interested. Don't forget we do have memberships. You can find the links to that in the description section. That's pretty much it. Thank you everyone for watching.